Hey, how's it going? This is Coach Anthony with Facilitate the Process. And just kind of wanted to speak about at least three different issues, which y'all know I sometimes go a little bit more. And what I'm looking at here is we want to talk about prep schools, reclassing, and last but not least, we will be discussing very briefly, talk about recruiting services. So probably wonder um, why would I speak about these three things? So let me tell you what these three things have in common. Prep school, reclassification, and recruiting services all kind of get a negative connotation when you speak about them. So the bad part about that is while we don't all have to agree uh, about prep school, reclassification, and recruiting services, whether they help or heed the process, we do know one thing, and I believe that we can all agree that it is a choice. Okay. It is definitely a choice. When a student athlete is up against the clock, which many, the clock has ran out on some folks, but what we look at is prep schools. So think about a student athlete who may need that extra year. Okay. They may need an extra year academically, physically, I even dare to say mentally, right? Here's the thing about that though. A lot of student athletes have had you want to say they've had ample time in grade school to get all these things together. Yeah, we fully understand. There are a lot of things thrown at student athletes nowadays that some of us didn't have to, I guess you can say, maneuver a lot of these obstacles that were placed in front. But at some point, some of this stuff, let's just be real about it. A lot of folks won't tell you this. Some of it is just an excuse. It's just an excuse, and let me tell you why I believe it to be an excuse. I believe it to be an excuse because now there are way too many resources to help folks in some messed up positions. One of those things being prep school. You have an opportunity if you want to do it, and it's going to cost you money as well, just as if you're going to college, it's going to cost you money. So I can't give you figures on a lot of prep schools. There are a lot of them around. You can research them. Um, but prep school, it is a choice. And not only is it a choice, but it's also an option for student athletes if they want to do those certain things. Even though throughout the whole entire high school quote unquote career and performing on the many circuits during the spring and summer, you've had opportunities hopefully to build your body, build yourself mentally, and get the academic side down. See, that's where sometimes when you look at folks and you put them on a scale and you can possibly say, let's say a coach is looking at two different student athletes and he says, okay, this student athlete, they were similarly situated, all that great stuff, but one pushed through 4 years of high school. The other one needed that prep year. Okay, you can say the one that needed that grad. I guess they call it the grad year. So that one person that had that grad year, you can say, okay, they recognized that they needed the assistance and they went for that instead of just throwing themselves out there. But you can also say that the person who did it for 4 years of high school and did all the same circuits and everything, you can say that they were a little bit tougher, right? It's all a matter of opinion as far as what a coach is looking for. So you may have the prep person, you may have someone who did it the whole 4 years and didn't need an extra year to use assistance. But nevertheless, it's a choice and it's an option for student athletes to have. So I would say don't look down on the prep schools. It's still an option. But remember, it's going to cost it may cost you a little bit extra money, right? And then you got to look at what a college coach is looking at. The schools you're looking at, how many prep school kids do they probably take? Or are they more apt to take a kid who's done 4 years of high school? If they're taking high schoolers and not going through the transfer portal. See, so you got too many variables there, right? Once you add that in, it's another variable. But like I said, it's a choice. So let's move on to reclassification. Reclassification was all the rage where let's say a student athlete's supposed to be in the class of 2024 and they're supposed to leave with their classmates and then they reclass to 2025. So can't tell you give you all the intricacies of that as to why a student athlete would do it. Those who do it know why they do it, whether it could be also the same thing as I just previously said, academics, mind's not ready, body's not ready. I mean, but they did just do 4 years of high school, right? And also the same circuits. So somewhere along the line, somebody's not guiding some of these folks correctly. And we're going to talk about part of that at the end of this. So reclassification is still a big thing. It's happening all around the country where student athletes are going into another year. Why you want to spend another year potentially in high school? I mean, you have to ask folks that do that. Um, that's not something that we would advise of anyone to do. We understand the reasonings. It doesn't mean we have to agree with it and we have to advise that. You have other folks that will advise some of those things, right? That's not what we do here. That's not what our focus is for. That's a parental or guardian's decision as to what they want to do for their student athlete, and that we are hands off in that kind of a situation. But reclassification in prep school is almost feels like it's the same thing. The only difference is that you'll remain in high school. Prep school, you can go to a prep school early and potentially be on that high school side of it. But also, if you go in that grad year, you can take some. Most of them offer. They have what do you call it? Like not. They can't call it a cohort, but they work with colleges to where they can receive college credits for classes, just as if they were in JUCO, right? So, lastly, about reclassification, it's not the best thing for everyone because, as many people will say that you've seen in articles and when they've been talking, reclassification, you are setting yourself back a year. And also, you would not graduate with your current classmates. You'll be graduating with another class. And it's not a guarantee that you're going to be recruited even after all of that. So, imagine how that would affect the psyche of a kid when we talk about those hot button issues of mental health and self care. You reclass and it still doesn't work. You can go to prep school and it still doesn't work, whatever your goal is. And we're going to talk about why this is so important. So just hang on with this because we're going to tell you why a lot of this is so important and as to what facilitate the process does for our student athletes. Lastly, recruiting services. Recruiting services get a bad rap because people will quickly say, oh, it's a money grab, it's this, it's that. Okay, how do you know if you've never done it? You only hear the negative items about it. You don't hear how these student athletes have access to a software where they can pretty much run the entire process, but they have someone overseeing how that's being done and giving them guidance, whether it's in relationship to their social media, in relationship to their academics, or the school choices that they're making. Because some student athletes choose all the wrong schools. Sometimes they can choose the right school, it's the right fit at that moment, and year to year it may not be. We've already proven that with the transfer portal. But what recruiting services can do for a student athlete is guide them in the right direction. And what we do here at Facilitate the Process, we provide a software that pretty much gives you a calendar and timeline from beginning to end that a student athlete can check off while they're in the process. So they never have to know, they never have to not know whether they're in the right step, they're in the right step. They don't have to guess because the software is going to tell them right where they're at and they're going to keep track of it, right? It's the only way to do it. The old way of doing it is over with. Yeah, people can call folks. Yeah, use that along with the software, right? But what our software can do for the student athlete, it has the questionnaires there. It has all the information for the schools. The student athlete, once they put all of their information and demographics in, what it will do for them is it will build them their very own website. It'll build them their very own website that they can then take and copy that URL and they can put that all over social media from their own website and their back end. They can actually take the what is it, X, I believe Facebook is on there, and they can share it from that page to their social media, which makes it even easier. They don't even have to leave from there to do it. So technology, what I'm getting at here in the recruiting process is key. College coaches are tied to their tablets, they're tied to their phones, They're constantly traveling all over, not only just the United States of America, they're traveling overseas as well. If they're overseas and you're texting them or you're sending them stuff on social media, they're getting it because it's technology. They don't have to wait for snail mail, right? Our emails go through as well. So the coaches are getting the questionnaires, which we have them directly already linked to where the student athlete does not have to search for them. We set this up for student athlete success, and that's what it's all about. It's setting them up for success. The We talked about cost with prep school and reclass, and when we look at recruiting services, yeah, it's a convenience. Let's call it what it is. In a moment of transparency, it's all about convenience. It's all about someone else handling the process for you. But what I just said was the student athletes will and the parents will handle that process because our software guides them completely through the entire process. They're never left alone. We have our own video vault. They need directions on something. Everything is sitting there waiting for them. You don't even have to call me and talk to me or text me about it or any of our staff. It's already there and it's ready to go for you. And that's not being done. That personal touch, even though with the software, we still have that personal touch. People give you a software, they leave you alone, and then you're looking for some help, and then you can't find it. That's not what we do here. So let me give you an additional portion of with the recruiting service where we do things differently. Okay, I know it says recruiting, we talk about recruiting service, but what we offer is a software and we also offer a personal touch. Let me tell you the other side of what we do. At Facilitate the Process, we also do professional development. We have trained individuals in public safety agencies and sport coaches and student athletes, of course, right? So why is it that your student athlete cannot, should I say, um, gain some value from that same thing, right? So what we do is we provide some of that professional development for your student athlete while they're still in high school. Yes, we provide professional development for your student athlete while they are still in high school. Let me tell you why that's so important. It's important because why should they wait until they quote unquote enter the job world if they don't have a job yet? Why should they have to wait till they enter the job world as an adult? Because let's face it, not everyone's gonna still play sports. But if they, let's say if that doesn't pan out, they're going to have that professional development sitting there waiting for them, knowing that I have that skill now. Oh, I'm not going to play ball or whatever it is. I got hurt. And now I need to be ready to enter this job world. And I'm going to be ready because I got some skills that I gained in professional development that I was actually trying to build so that I could have that ready to be college ready mentally and professionally. So that's what we really do with that. Our goal is to have that student athlete ready, college ready, not just athletically, but as a student, as a person, professionally ready to roll. That's where we differ. That is where we differ. No one else is doing this. If they are, let me know because I haven't seen anyone else doing this. All I've seen is you have a recruiting service. We need you on board. We're looking to get you into this college, that college. Okay, we want to do all that stuff, but we also want to help and nurture that student athlete. And for that matter, from a professional development standpoint, we'll do that for any student, right? Parent, coach, businesses. We'll do that portion. But what we're saying is that on that recruiting side, it's not just about the athletics. It's about getting that student athlete ready, college ready. You'll watch TV, and when they talk about the student athletes when they're playing in when they're whatever sport that they're participating in, they'll say he or she was college ready. Okay, a lot of times, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when they talk about them being college ready, they're talking about them being college ready for their sport. We're talking about them being college ready for not only their sport, but for life and whatever they're going to get into in their professional life and their professional better. Because now, as a student athlete in college, you got to be ready for potential NIL deals. Yeah, any of the lawsuits that are going on, they're talking about wanting to pay people, unions, all those different things. So professionally, they got to be ready to be able to deal with those things as well. No one is doing that. Someone may be doing it over here, someone may be doing it over there, but they're not doing that and encompassing that with the recruiting process, right? So to give you sort of an idea of what those, because it's a lot, right? We can kind of tailor make the professional development to what a student athlete does, right? But from a building block standpoint, we do things like we talk about their social media exposure for better mental health, the big one. We talk about them fearing success. Uh, that's huge. A lot of people fear success. Not everybody who becomes successful is just like, oh, we're successful now. We're going to do this and we're going to do that. Some people are afraid of it because they don't know what comes from it. Kids are getting these NIL deals. They're making money. And now everybody wants to come see him and say, "Hello, how are you? I got my hand out now. Give me, right?" All right. So validation. We talk about that. We talk about student athletes knowing themselves better, right? Um, oh, we're really big on affirmations. Student athletes, they should have positive things to say, at least to themselves, every day, week, month, year, whatever it is, but they have to have something positive to say to themselves. So we deal with affirmations for our student athletes. We talk about being a morning person. Student athletes, you're going to start up early in the morning. When you have a job, sometimes you start off early in the morning. Hopefully, you have your own transportation. You don't have to call someone to help you or wait on a ride. Just saying. So these are all helpful things. We talk about things like digital decluttering, where we're talking about all the, we're replacing all this paper and stuff, right? We're replacing all of this stuff. So when we replace all of these things, what we're doing is we're saying we're into that digital world, right? So now we're teaching them how to, well, we're giving them tips on how to take care of all their digital media and social media stuff. So we're teaching them how to declutter that way, not just your regular get rid of the paper, don't hoard, and all of those things. We're teaching them tips on leadership. No one's doing these things. They're just talking about, hey, give me your money. We're going to get you set up recruiting. No, that's not just what we do. I've already said that. That's not just what we do. So we're teaching them tips on leadership. We're teaching them how to handle rejection. That's key now because a lot of kids, what are the first thing they do when they get the notifications when they're trying to get the scholarships? Everybody's posting, I got this offer, I got that offer. Thank you to the 15th university. Thankful to this university for assisting me and providing me with, okay, it's the 20th school, and you just said the same daggone thing, right? So and then let's say a couple of those schools decide, you know what, this is not worth it. Sometimes it'll backfire, right? Sometimes you might have a school that say, hey, we don't want to deal with you anymore, or something happens, or they don't want you for some certain reason. It could be a job, it could be anything, not just this. We're teaching student athletes how to handle that rejection. That's what we're doing. We're teaching them some life skills. And I guess that's the best way to put it. We're teaching them some life skills. This is not to supplant the parents or any of the coaches, but this is just an add-on. We are an add-on, and sometimes what they call in like um, health environments, we're like a wraparound service. We're here to fill in some of those gaps, and I think that's probably the best way to put it. We're here to fill in some of those gaps. Not just about recruiting, right? But you will see on the bottom of the screen says to visit recruit.facilitatetheprocess.com or scan the QR code that's right here above my shoulder, and to go ahead and start a system. So even more, we talk about change. A lot of people don't deal with change well. That can cause a lot of anxiety and depression, right? And we need to worry about self-care. So we talk about change, change being the new constant. It's the one thing that is constant. Change is going to happen. Change in the recruiting process is going to happen. Life's going to happen. They can wake up with an offer in the morning, uh, um, go to sleep with that offer, wake up in the morning and the offer's gone. How do you deal with it? Especially if it was on your top 5 schools. How do you deal with it? You move on. We give you tips on how to deal with those things in life in general. And that's why we say having these kids be college ready, not only as an athlete, but as a student athlete, as a person, as someone who is a young person coming onto this campus who's probably their first time away from home, right? So different things like meditation tips, um, We also do, we talk about some recruiter service pros. We don't worry about the cons as much because a lot of the negativity are things that are just, if you work with the right people that are about taking care of people, such as we are, facilitate the process, then you don't have to worry about it. And we talk about going beyond limits. And what we do with that is we're talking to student athletes pretty much about knowing what their limits are, knowing what their boundaries are. And sometimes it's okay. Sometimes you got to push that envelope. You got to push it just so you can try to get ahead. Because at the end of the day, what another student athlete won't do, one will do, right? And you got to kind of watch that because you don't want to take yourself out of character. Do what you do within what you do as a student athlete. And hopefully the coaches will see that and everything will be okay. But as I come full circle, and of course, recruiting service took up the bulk of this. But as I come full circle, the reason why you should sign on with us is because we still have that personal touch, even though we provide a software to assist the student athletes. But we just explained to you why we have that personal touch because we provide a lot of professional development items that some of these things they only teach you in the quote unquote job world. We would love for student athletes to get that now. Get it now. If you're in the ninth grade, so what? Get it now. We're going to do this process all the way through. Does it guarantee that you're gonna get signed by that a student is gonna get signed by school? No, does not guarantee that. Neither does the reclassification. Neither does a prep school. No amount of money that you throw at it is going to be a guarantee. So always remember that. So don't let people take away your choice. Recruiting service is a part of that choice. As I said, we have a software. We love the software, and it's growing and growing and growing every day. We are adding more things to it. We have multiple packages that you can utilize, and for your parents, or if you're paying for it, if the student athlete is paying for it themselves, it's not going to break the bank for them. It's really truly not going to break the bank for them. It's really not. But if you use some of these places that only care about one part of it, and that's making money and charging an exorbitant amount of money for the same thing that we're going to do. But guess what? I can't worry about them. This company can't worry about them. But what we are worried about is taking care of the student athlete. That's our goal. That's our goal. All right. We facilitate the process so that you can start to trust the process. And that's what it's about. Trusting the process, trusting and facilitate the process. Because what else are you going to do when you go from that freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year, and then you become unsigned? Don't get to that point. So we are an option. We would love to get to work with you. If you go to the website, you'll see on there where it says it's either going to say book me or it's going to say talk to the coach, get on the schedule. Let's talk about it. And let's make this happen. Let's grow your student athlete. Let's get your student athlete on board. Let's get your student athlete on the path to getting recruited.